two. There he is, there's the good one. Crazy, isn't it? Carp underneath your feet. You joined me here today at Swan Valley Fisheries in Yateley. It was a long drive down. It took 3 hours. Should have only been a 2-hour journey, but the M25 was gridlocked. So yeah, feeling a little bit deflated when I got here, but as soon as I've stood on this bridge, you know, within seconds I've seen carp, you know, sort of coming underneath my feet, a couple of real good ones too. So this area is looking like a really good starting point. I think there's a guy up to the left here, so I'm going to probably put a bucket to the right hand side of this bridge for now, and then I'm going to, you know, have a good look round and see if there's a better opportunity elsewhere. If not, then this is a really good starting point. It's worth mentioning that this is all now one lake. You know, the carp actually used to be blocked off from going through this bridge, and since last November, I think the bailiff said they've now unblocked it and the carp can freely get between both lakes, you know, which really changes the dynamics of the fishing. And yeah, I'm really excited to give things a go. It's a good fish out. See where them few bubbles are on the surface, just literally lopped out. Yeah, look, see all that fizzing up? Nice bank of weed in short here. Well, this is literally the first swim that I'm stood in, and I've seen so much activity already. Just seen a good mirror, head and shoulder. Seen a couple of flank cuts, big fizz patches coming up off the bottom. Seen a carp down here, tails up underneath this canopy. I'm going to leave the bucket here for now because there's so much lake to look at, but this is looking like a really good starting point. The weather feels epic. It's real nice, sort of strong southwesterly wind today, and they're clearly active and feeding. Right, I've been for a lap, and basically I think where I first put the bucket in this peg seems like the best bet to start. And since arriving with my kit, there's actually fish fizzing now just beyond this bank of Canadian weed. And I sort of had it in mind that I'm going to fish at least a rod at the back on that willow, because when I've been on the bridge, I've been watching the fish come through and they're sort of been heading towards that willow, but they're literally smashed. It looks like they're feeding just about a rod length out. So I think I'm going to actually get fishing as soon as possible and just flick 1 or 2 rods, you know, where they're fizzing, and see if we can nick a quick bite, you know, before looking for a spot on that opposite bank. Perhaps still do that later, but I think whilst it seems like there's half a chance of potentially nicking one now quite quickly. Obviously I don't know what the bottom's like. It could be weedy, but I'm not going to disturb it and start thrashing it up. I'm just going to plop a couple of rods in, maybe pepper a few baits around each one, and then sit back for an hour or 2 and see what happens and take things from there. But yeah, things are looking really promising. Well, I've just got the second rod out with a baiting pole. There has been quite a bit of fizzing going on this afternoon in front of this swim. They've been in really close, you know, up to sort of 30 odd yards out. You know, it's quite a tight little swim, this. So I've just decided to drop 2 rods in fairly close, maybe rod length, 2 rod lengths out max. And basically I've got a big band of Canadian pondweed up to the surface right in front of the swim. So it's quite difficult to get a good line lay and you know, get my braid to sink down the other side of that weed. So what I've done is I've just put 1 rod each side of it just to try and get the line down as much as possible, because I think that's really important, you know, to be as discreet as you can. You want to get that line as low down to the lake bed as possible. You know, I don't want to risk spooking any carp. I've not had a lead about. I've no idea what the bottom's like out there. So I've just, for now, I'm just going to give it an hour or 2. I'm not going to commit myself, you know, I'm not going to leave these rods out all night now. I'm just going to try and nick a quick bite. So give the rods a chance for a couple of hours. And what I've done is I've just lowered 2 rigs out there with the baiting pole. I've just got a long sort of 10-inch boom section of supple fluorocarbon with a little spinner rig. little match to hatch shrimp pop-ups. Got a piece of foam, so rather than putting bait into the baiting pole, I've just foamed up my rig, waited for the foam to pop up to the surface just so I could, you know, sort of bait loosely around the foam, just to give it a nice little spread. You know, I'm fishing quite a long hook link, so you know, I want the fish to sort of travel a little bit between each hook bait. Did get a couple of soft drops, so hopefully they're presented okay. But yeah, it's exciting. I'm going to give it a go, like I say, for a couple of hours. If nothing, then perhaps have a little bit of a lead about, just so I'm certain that I'm fishing, you know, effectively for, well, going into the night, because I think I'm probably going to stay in here for the first night. Oh yeah. So nothing did happen, unfortunately, earlier on after dropping those couple of rigs in with the baiting pole. Fizzing soon sort of dwindled after having the rigs in, sort of hoping for a quick bite. So yeah, since then I've wound the rigs in because there was a big bank of weed in this margin. I just wanted to clear it out just so I could get my lines down for tonight. But yeah, since watching this afternoon, there has still been a bit of fizzing going on in this swim, but seemed to push them back a bit further. And yeah, it's sort of nice and tree lined along this back bank, and I have seen a bit of fizzing coming up off the side of this willow here. So I've had a bit of a lead about, and I have located a nice little gravel spot which looks really good for a bite. So the plan is just to get a rig on that for this evening, probably head round there and just throw a bit of bait in from that side, get it nice and accurate, save spomming as well. Probably just put a few handfuls of pellet down there, and then yeah, think about putting another rod out somewhere, maybe get a third out as well. But yeah, got a couple of hours until dark, so I'm just going to get on now and yeah, see what happens for the rest of the evening and into the night. Oh mate. Horrible stuff. Right, okay. That's 2 rods finally out there this evening. I've got to say, it's looking really good. Obviously I've had to cause a bit of disturbance in the swim, leading about. You know, it doesn't seem like there's fish about, but I'm pretty confident that they will come back. I feel like this swim offers quite a good interception point with the bridge just there, fish coming in and out. And they were really happy here this afternoon. I've got 2 rods out now where I have seen them feeding. Obviously I've got one tight on that bush, on that little gravel spot. Now initially I was going to spom a little bit of pellet over there and probably fish like a little wafter presentation, as it is a clean spot, but I have decided against that and just gone for a little spinner rig on a pop-up, and I've just decided to fish it over around 30 boilies. So it's a nice discreet trap. You know, this is a bait boat water, it's dominated by bait boat users, and I just feel like, you know, these spots tight to the banks are fished quite a lot, probably over, you know, little piles of pellet and broken boilie and whatnot. So I just feel like it's a little bit different, and it's just a little bit easier to get fishing a bit quicker this evening, because I was able just to hand throw boilies over to the spot. You know, it's only sort of 20 yards. I've just heard one show down the left hand side. That's a good sign. And then on this left hand rod, I've been watching them fizz up a little bit further to where I dropped the rods earlier on. They were fizzing up around that sort of 20-25 yard mark, but they kept fizzing up on this particular area, and I've leaded it this evening, and I've found a nice sort of silty strip in amongst some patchy Canadian pondweed down on the lake bed. So yeah, once I fine-tuned that, I popped the marker float up and give it a good amount of bait with the catapult. Again, just boilie fishing. Probably put out a good up to about 1 kilo, and yeah, just went with the same rig that I was dropping them out on the pole with, which was the sort of longer, supple fluorocarbon boom, around 10 inches, again on a little spinner rig, and a little matching pop-up on that one as well. So yeah, looking forward to seeing what the night brings. Hopefully we got it right, and there'll be a carp or two to show you in the morning. Well, after a very quiet night last night, I had got up early this morning, hadn't seen much going on in front of the swim. Had a little look around the lake whilst Ash set on my rods. Have seen a little bit of activity on the main lake for a potential move for tonight. But yeah, went back to bed for a couple of hours, hoping that they'd turn up at some point this morning. Hopefully he might be the first of a couple more yet, because they were really active in the daytime yesterday in front of this swim. So hopefully we'll get a few more fish traffic throughout the day and pick them off, and then perhaps think about a move later on this evening. Come on. He's a small one, but he's a pretty one. Off the mark. Okay, well here's the first one of the trip. He's only a small stocky, but he's a very welcome little mirror. I've made a slight tweak to the hook bait, which I'm going to go into shortly. Yeah, nice start, and hopefully we'll get into a couple of the bigger ones. But yeah, I'm going to get him back now and whack the old kettle on.